Welcome to Turtle WoW News with Vrograg. I'm your news anchor orc, Vrograg Fishslayer, here to bring you all the server news for the week of April 2nd, 2024. Let's get to it. I'm the orc, and here's the news. The big story this week, the Noble Garden Season event is up. This means the mad dash to find eggs and getting a chance at some fun items is on until April 10th. In addition, the fine fashion design work done by Serendipity's boutique also has an array of pastel colors to theme perfectly with the beginning of the spring season. Of course, the biggest item added to the event is in the donation shop, which also is having a seasonal sale. The Noble Garden Egg was added, which can be purchased for 99 turtle coins and includes a wild assortment of cosmetic and convenience items, from the mundane goblin brainwashing device to hard-to-find color shirts all the way up to expensive mounts. Plus, any duplicate items you might get can also be redeemed for 2/5 of the turtle coin cost through a seasonal vendor in major cities. The release of this random egg into the Turtle WoW community was not without some small controversy. Community members, myself included, were concerned that this kind of transaction was little more than gambling or in-game loot boxes. In response to several complaints raised about the added item, the team did release the drop chance rates of items on their list, as well as an opt-in system for players who might have gambling issues to be blocked from buying the addictive eggs. I'll continue more on this story later in the program with an editorial piece after the changelog roundup. In other top news, Public Relations made note of some new additions in the active forum post about 1.17.2. For those unfamiliar, these forum posts act as a way for the team to communicate items that are and are not planned in any upcoming patch. Much of what is in the forum post is older news. The community is already aware that the next raid will be in Upper Karazhan, and that there will be class changes and even alternative tier sets available. However, what caught my eye was the expansion of lower level dungeons, a new addition. Shadowfang Keep, Scarlet Graveyard, Wailing Caverns, and Dead Mines are due to have a boss or two added to them, as well as having a new area within to explore. The itemized list also makes mention of some old bosses having their loot tables adjusted, as well as gaining new items to enjoy while leveling. From the post, we can see that the team's aim is to revitalize the classic experience players have in dungeons, as well as encourage a culture of exploration. The post continued to further detail older mentions of things coming in 1.17.2, but now have more details added. Like with the character customizations, there will be new hairstyles from Alpha WoW, Wrath, and even Turtle Customs for those people who actually click Hide Helmet on their UI. We learned that items, which for many players just take up space in their inventory, will be added to a new tab known as the Toy Collection tab. While news on this tab is a bit stale, the image used shows that it will include things like illusions, the goblin brainwashing device, and the mailbox terminal, and even non-pet trinket items. This will go a long way, certainly for veteran players, to have some inventory breathing space. There was talk previously about some UI improvements, and while the current jank involved in inspecting another player's talents is long overdue for an overhaul, it seems that the crafting will be gaining a sorely needed crafting search menu and 2 checkboxes to easily navigate to recipes that a player has materials for, as well as ones that will provide skill ups. Those are the biggest new patch notes I felt worth sharing, but the post does go on to list many other smaller fixes or additions that seem to fall into the category of it can't be bug fixed without a client update. I'll leave a link to the forum post for you to take a look at so you can keep yourself informed on Turtle WoW's future. And finally, in top news, just yesterday the server celebrated April Fool's Day, a time for general hijinks around the server from the team. This year, the community has met with a strange occurrence of all their mounts being made to look like the Whimsy Cloud mount. All hats were made to look like sunglasses, and the GMs were out in full force making players into all manner of strange creatures. Though some pranks have been less practical and more joke for players, since seemingly critters all over Azeroth were granted hit points reaching into the millions, which means certain dungeons were quite annoying to do because groups could not leave combat to drink. Also with the in-game fun was a satirical changelog posted for March 32nd, featuring silly changes like druids needing to hibernate for several months before wild shaping into bear, and critters having a chance to drop the Gressel Dawn of Ruin sword. Honestly, it is a hilarious read and skillfully written, so make sure to check it out for a good laugh and a little peek into Turtle WoW humor. Hopefully everyone had a fun time with the once-a-year event, and I'd like to thank the team for always making April Fool's Day special on the server. That's the top news for this week. Let's throw it over to Market Watch to see how the auction house has been faring. Welcome to Market Watch, where I count everything in tens because that's how many fingers I have. All our data is gathered from numbers provided by wowauctions.net. Make sure to use their website for all of your own market data research and investment due diligence. First, to Tel Aviv. The Alliance S&P 200 trended steady around the 4.8 mark, only deviating 8% up or down for all of March. The Horde S&P 200, meanwhile, fell, trending down by 2 gold and finishing March, matching the Alliance S&P at 4.5 gold. A trend that has continued for weeks, wherein the two separate markets have grown closer and closer in parity to one another. Though their S&Ps remain similar, one place either market differed greatly was in the mining index. For March, the Alliance saw steady growth, sticking close to the 1.6 gold mark, only moving up or down half a gold. For the Horde, there was considerably less volatility up and down until the 28th, where the index cratered to nearly half a gold. Digging a little deeper, we can find the root of why such big swings can occur. The largest commodity for any mining index is usually dark iron bars. For the Alliance, their dark iron stayed neatly packed near or around 8 gold. For the Horde, however, dark iron started the same 2-week period at 10 and grew 13%. But blue sapphire fell 25% around the 28th and mithril by 50%. This was enough to tank the Horde's mining index. This goes to show just how small some of these indexes can be and how little fluctuations can cause drastic changes. Plenty of gold is out there to be made by Tel Aviv prospectors, it seems. Over on Nordinar, the S&P 200 is starting to recover following the economic update a few weeks ago. But for the month of March, the major market index trended down 11%. It is clear to see exactly how big the bubble bursting was for herbs following the change to lashers and dynamic nodes. The herb index alone trended down over 50%, which is great comfort to those raiding and in need of consumables. Since dynamic fishing nodes were added in the original economic update, I wanted to check in on how the fishing index had been doing. It seems that even before the update, fishing was on a downward trend. Looking closer to the big fish itself, stone scale eel, the little slippery guy trended down 13%, while other fishing pool fish trended steady, like oily blackmouth and the hot-blooded firefin snapper, which likewise was a touch volatile but trended slightly up. Since only stone scale eel seemed to come down, this indicates that the dynamic fishing pools are likely having little impact, if any at all, and that the falling price of fish is more a consequence of people being able to add a variety of things to do on their farming while on the server. That's all the time we have for Market Watch today. I hope you found some of the information here useful. Make sure to use wowauctions.net for all of your own market research. Remember to keep an eye on your coin, otherwise someone else will for you. Let's get back to the news. Just a quick community shout out before the changelog. I received word members of the Clickers Guild that they are celebrating the unusual and rare achievement of a hunter, Phalanx, getting Thunder Fury. As a Thunder Fury wielder myself, I can attest to what a long and difficult struggle it is to get, though the fact that it would be a gear improvement did always keep me going. Phalanx's experience is one of pure vanity, purely for the achievement alone, and for that kind of dedication, I salute you. Now to the changelog. The changelog for March 26th had 23 notes in it, so I'll try to cover the ones with the biggest impact with this week's changelog roundup. An issue in the ruins of Encourage, or AQ20's notorious event boss, was fixed. Previously, an error with Major Packen allowed him to aggro Colonel Saren's mob without respect to when the next wave was coming, making 2 waves happen at once and likely a wipe. Players left mounted when a battleground ends will no longer remain mounted. This previous behavior allowed players to warp back to Azeroth mounted and even in places where they should not be mounted. The repeatable turn-in quests as part of the Alterac Valley battleground will no longer give experience. Some very clever level 50 plus characters seemed a little too eager to do the turn-ins, it seemed, and now can't use leveling as an excuse to leave the front. The recipes for greater protection from Shadow, Frost, Nature, and Arcane will now be fixed to the Blizzard-like 5% rather than the harder-to-get 2% from the respective mobs they drop from. Players from Classic joining Turtle WoW recently were likely perplexed by their incredible luck with the Warpwood pods in Dire Maul. Those in the know were aware that Vanilla and Classic had a chance for those lootable pods to be a trap that would either ensnare the player or spawn a cloud of noxious gas. The Warpwood pods should now have a chance to give the trap effect as in previous versions of Vanilla WoW. Keep it in mind before your next adventure in the Forgotten Elven Ruins. There was a series of tweaks applied to Warlock and Hunter pets that will give their default AI a little more thinking and a little less stinking. The dash or dive ability was getting used regardless of how far enemies were from the Hunter pets with the ability, and a Succubus's charm was getting applied while the Demoness was still fully auto-attacking its enemy, immediately breaking the effect. Hopefully, this added boost in intellect of those pets will mean a less frustrating experience for hunters and warlocks. And finally, rogues will be much more visible to party and raid members. Being invisible, even to allies, is good lore and a solid confidence boost to rogues, but when coordinating pulls, not being able to see a rogue oftentimes meant that the rogue would be out of position. This often led to additional mobs getting pulled and often rogues' injury or death. Now allies of the rogue can helplessly watch as a rogue shirks their sapping duties and methodically pickpockets everything, the way the game was intended to be played. That completes the changelog roundup for this week. This week's changelog may be out, not the April Fool's joke one, the normal one. So make sure to check it out so you can keep on top of all the latest adjustments coming to Turtle WoW. I wanted to step outside of my role as a journalist a little and offer some thoughts about the Noble Garden random egg donation shop debacle. I feel I owe it to the community I advocate for to let my position and feelings be known on the matter. The egg is a loot box, and seeing it be added to the store is very troubling. Now, I'm not ignorant to the very large goals the team has put in front of themselves. The amount of development time and effort, hosting, organization, and all the other behind-the-scenes work required to continue making Turtle WoW fun to play is not free. In fact, it is a good thing that the team is willing and ready to pay the talent that they have attracted, because they rightly should be compensated for the great work that they've done. Even though Turtle WoW is free to play, it will always cost something. That being said, the latent predatory nature of gacha mechanics with items paid for in real-world currency cannot be understated. By design, these loot boxes take advantage of players' ignorance at best, and at worst, players with gambling issues. Developers should always have their player safety as their number one priority. When the egg event was announced, there were no posted lists of chances for various items, there was no safeguards for players with gambling issues, and there is still no limit to how many eggs one person can buy. Fortunately, members of the team heard these concerns and have since posted the odds for all the items, so players know what their chances really are, and players with known gambling issues can message a GM to be blocked from purchasing eggs. My message to the team: do better. Consider a less harmful approach to raising funds. In the forums, I listed 4 things that can be done that I'll share with you now to try and earn back some of the trust I feel was lost. First, offer more transparency. If the team is more open about the costs incurred with their plans, I think it would go a long way to demonstrating exactly how much needs to be spent to keep the lights on. I think many community members are woefully unaware of how much the operation and project costs. Second, have fundraising goals. Doing this will allow the community to see how much funding is needed. Consider methods used by online funding sites that when goals are met, players server-wide are rewarded or even agree to add something in for the next patch. This is a much more fair and straightforward approach while still being engaging with the players. Third, and not to beat a dead horse, avoid gambling mechanics. While they are surely effective in generating money, the cost in community trust hardly warrants the quick flow of cash. Fourth and finally, include your community. Some of the most fun and capable, creative people are part of the Turtle WoW community right now. You have already extended the olive branch to the Class Change Council. Why not see what ideas your own community can make? We can help. Many of us want to. But when we get surprised by sales like this, it only serves to disempower the community that for so long you've fostered. To the players of the community, I urge caution. Be mindful of your spending habits, and if you feel like you might be spending too much, reach out for help. Take this as a warning, and be vigilant in the future against it. If you still want to support the team, consider doing regular monthly donations, as it makes cash flow a lot more reliable for the frightening amount of overhead they have. I'm not going to sit here and tell you how to have fun. If you think the eggs are harmless fun, have a blast. I only ask that you, too, be mindful of what a slippery slope loot boxes are and how generating money from them often leads companies to utilize them more and more for the same reason. Likewise, I don't want to be all doom and gloom. This is the only time the team has done something like this, and if we as a community can make our displeasure clear, then it is a lot less likely to happen again. Remember, Turtle WoW is a community, not a customer base. Thank you for your time and listening to my orcish TED Talk. That rounds out the news for this week. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. I will be hosting my regular Fishin' Chat this weekend, noon US East Coast time, plus maybe another random game if time permits. Last week we tried out Shadows of Doubt and had a fun time getting shot at by cops. Murder happened here, I'm guessing. Whoa. Oh geez. I'm getting shot already. I'm sorry. Oh no. They're gonna kill me. If you like this content and want to support me, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're feeling generous, super chats are enabled and I have a working tip link now available. My comments, DMs, and emails are always open for feedback, constructive criticism, and any news items you'd like to share. All methods of reaching me will be in the description of the video. It's about time for me to head out. Whatever you're doing, make sure to have fun. Be safe, and remember, the deadliest weapon is knowledge.